Yeah, okay. So, welcome back. And if this is your first night here, welcome tonight. Just a couple logistical announcements. Over there in the corner is a bookstore. And if you're interested in any of the books that Geshe Michael and Lama Christie have written, please visit the bookstore during the break. I don't need you to raise your hands now, but at the end of the evening, I'm going to need about 3 to 4 helpers. So if you want to help clean up at the end of tonight, that would be great. And these teachings will become available, and they'll be on dmes.org, which will be the audio. And the video will be on Google Video, I believe. So you can just go to Google Video and search for Geshe Michael and Lama Christie. And also Star in the East has the teachings. The spiritual partners that take place in New York City are on the Star in the East website. And in the back, there should be some brochures with these websites. You can always go to the Diamond Mountain website, and that'll direct you to where you want to go. Or Worldview. That's a lot of information. So Spiritual Partners is working on getting a actual website. Where's Jamie? Is Jamie here? Right? Okay. So hopefully within the next 6 months or so, we'll have our own website, and you'll be able to have all of the talks on Spiritual Partners there. And that's sort of about it for logistics, please. I told everybody to turn off their cell phone last night, and I didn't. So everybody just turn off your cell phones right now. It's very embarrassing. I did it during a teaching in New York. It was painful. Oh. So if James and Lisette can come up, I'm going to have them introduce Geshe Michael and Lama Christie. When we do Spiritual Partners in New York, these guys always run the Spiritual Partners talks there. So here's James and Lisette.
It's wonderful to see so many people. Such a great talk last night, wasn't it? Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. The thing I wanted to say to there's many of us who are longtime students of Geshe Michael and Lama Christie and know them very well. And then I see some faces that are perhaps more new. The thing I want to say is they have to pretend to have mental afflictions in order to actually help us. We've been around them for so many years, watching them so closely on a daily basis. They have no mental afflictions. They have no problems. They are totally here to help us. And I think that that's really the extraordinary thing that you're going to witness tonight. And so maybe look for their secret. And it seems to be, to me, from watching them, that they are constantly 100% devoted to ending suffering for other people all the time. And you never see a single thought about their own selves, cross their mind. This is the rarest, most extraordinary thing I've ever witnessed in my life. And I'm so pleased that so many of you are going to get to see them tonight.
Like Rob said, James and I are the ones who usually teach Spiritual Partners in New York, though Christine and Sham have also begun to, which I think is really wonderful. Sorry about that. Whatever it takes. Thank you. So, like James said, they're just so extraordinary. And I think being spiritual partners ourselves and not being at the level that Geshe Michael and Lama Christie are at, we still found ourselves trying to have an ordinary relationship. And it doesn't work. I think that's why we're all here, because somewhere deep inside, whether you're new students or old students, there's something inside you that says, I'm doing something wrong because it doesn't work. I start, the first kiss is amazing, and then it just falls apart, and it doesn't need to be that way. And we believe that somewhere in our heart, because then we pick up and we go to the next person. And that's okay. And what they're teaching us is how to do it right, that it's possible, that we can end our afflictions, become different types of people, and have perfect, beautiful relationships. And finally, we have a model. So please, please, please welcome Geshe Michael and Lama Christy, our holy lamas.
So again, tonight we'll start with just a short meditation to get our minds centered. So everyone, try and sit up straight. Close your eyes and place your mind right at the tip of your nose. Just watch the air as it flows first out and then back into your body. Let go of all the other thoughts running beneath the surface and just allow yourself to focus for 1 minute on a single point. Okay, you can open your eyes.
Hi, welcome to new people and old. So we started last night and giving a talk about spiritual partners, and this time we're concentrating on a thing called klesha. And klesha, we used a foreign word because there's no really good English word for it. But again, the definition of a klesha, what a klesha is a thought which disturbs the peace of mind of the person who has it. Okay? A thought which disturbs the peace of mind of the person who has it. That's the classical definition of a klesha. So in a way, how do you know when you're having a klesha? Your peace of mind is disturbed. You see? Like you don't feel happy. And so that's a good... I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it's a barometer. If you're not actively happy, if your mind is disturbed, if you even feel a little off balance, you're having a klesha. Okay? There's this question people ask, is a klesha always bad karma? Because that would be a problem, right? That means every time you're off balance or feel unhappy, you're making more unhappiness in the future. So then it would seem like it was impossible to get out of, right? Because we have negative thoughts all day. And if each one plants a karmic seed that produces 1,000 more in the future, then things are hopeless. Yeah, it's just about like that. There's a joke, not a joke, there's a scripture that says the odds of getting rid of your kleshas are like a blind turtle that lives in the ocean at the bottom and comes up once every 1,000 years. And then you throw what do you call those things? Shaped like a lifesaver. You show like a life preserver. You throw one out in San Diego, you know, and it floats around, and then this turtle comes up around, I don't know, Guam, and sticks his head up, and he just happens to put it through the life preserver that you threw out in San Diego. And those are the odds of getting rid of your kleshas, okay? So it's not so bad. Because they repeat each other. They perpetuate each other, right? We were there. We were watching. There's a project in Mexico. We were watching the guy. He hatches baby sea turtles in his house. And then he goes out at night and he releases them. And we were so impressed. We saw him one night. He came out and we were like, what are you doing? And he has this big container and he dumps it out on the edge of the water. And there's like 200 tiny turtles. And they're like, he drops them on the ground and they go like this. And then they're like an inch long. And then they start going towards the water like this. Like they just know. They have this magnetic thing in their head. And so we asked him, we wanted to give him some money because it was so beautiful, He just does it. And we said, how many survive? And he said, well, 16 out of 1,000 will survive, But he still does it every night. He goes out every night and he throws them in the water, So that's about the odds of getting rid of your kleshas. Okay? It's pretty bad. But if you can, and when you do, because you will, right? Evolution is such that all human beings always get rid of their kleshas. Every person here, if you haven't already, you'll get rid of your kleshas. Okay? It's just a matter of evolution of time. We all will. Okay? The day you do get rid of your kleshas, the day you remove the last negative thought from your mind, this is nirvana. Okay? So there's a lot of, what do you call, wrong ideas about what is nirvana, and there is a school of Buddhism that says, which is wrong, and it says, you get to a point where you just sort of die, and your body disappears, and your mind disappears. It's called Bemrit Gyunchepa. It means your body discontinues, and your mind discontinues, and this is nirvana. And then you're just nothing, It's just stopped. Everything has stopped. And then the higher schools say, no, that's not right. Buddha described nirvana differently. Buddha said nirvana is the permanent ending of your kleshas. Okay? Buddha said the definition of nirvana is the permanent ending of your kleshas. So you could, and kleshas are like anger, pride, desire. We talked about them last night. So there will come a day when you don't have kleshas anymore. And you won't look much different to other people. Okay? So nirvana you can achieve at 10 o'clock in the morning and then go see your friends at noon for lunch and you will look the same, basically. Okay? You don't change, there's no big halo around your head or anything. You just don't have kleshas anymore. What does that feel like? What is it like not to have a klesha anymore? It's not just that you are dealing with your anger. It's not just that you are dealing with your doubts. It's not that you are managing your emotions anymore. You cannot have a doubt anymore. You are not capable of having a doubt anymore. Okay? So try to imagine what a person like that would feel like. What would it feel like to be a person who is incapable of doubting their life or what they have to do in life, right? What would it be like to never again feel any anxiety or unsurety or doubt about what you have to do with your life, right? What would it be like to never have the slightest question? It doesn't even come in your mind to feel nervous about what you have to do today or tomorrow. It doesn't even occur in your mind. Fear, anxiety, nervousness, any kind of hesitation, just don't have it anymore. Incapable of having it, right? So the ultimate goal, we're talking about kleshas with regard to your partner, right? Like how do you avoid kleshas in a relationship, right? And how can you not get angry when things get rough with your partner? How can you deal with doubts about your partner like that, right? That's our general discussion. And then in the world, if you go to a counselor or you go to a priest or anybody and you say, I'm having trouble with my marriage, and then they teach you ways to deal with your anger. They teach you ways to sort of live with doubt and sort of lessen the doubt or try to learn to live with an acceptable level of doubt or an acceptable amount of anger that you don't express, right? But this is a different thing. The idea of nirvana is different. It's a different thing. It's a completely different goal. We are not explaining, and we are not trying to present a place where you learn to manage your negative emotions, you know, where you have them, but you're just learning to suppress them. Or when they come up, you're learning to divert them. It's not like that. The real goal of the study of kleshas is to remove them from your mind permanently, so that you cannot have a doubt about your future. You cannot feel, you don't have this sensation of anxiety about what you have to do with your partner. It doesn't come in your mind, never. You have no fear about the future. You know exactly what you're going to do. Forever. Always. Right? So just try to imagine the real result of the method we're presenting tonight. It's not managing your emotions. It's that you would never have a negative emotion, right? You can imagine the absence of doubt. You can imagine the absence of anger. But now imagine the opposite. A person who can only see beauty is incapable of seeing anything else. You see? A person who can only see beauty and cannot see another thing, even as the people around them are seeing other things. They open their eyes, they can only see beauty, nothing else. You know, imagine that. And that's where we're trying to go. This is where we're trying to go. And it will be with your partner. It will be with your partner. Okay?
That's it. Geshe Michael usually talks for a lot longer. I have a lot of time to just sit and relax, and he just surprised me. It was like 10 minutes. Now it's time for Christy to talk. Oh no. Okay. So now we're getting into, you want to actually talk about a negative emotion, or, I'm going to start. Okay. So I get to start actually talking about my own kleshas and sharing them with you all, because it's so, humbling to talk about your own problems in front of a billion people, and it helps. It helps me, and thanks for coming and helping me with all of my kleshas. I know you're probably done with all of them by now, and you're all just pretending to come to our talk so that I can help myself get rid of these last little problems. So, my specialty today, my first specialty, is pride. We're going to talk about pride. We're just jumping around all over the place in this reading. This is on page 6. So, what is pride? Well, it's focusing on some kind of good quality that we think we have and saying, that's me, I have this great quality, and getting really puffed up about it, right? Everybody knows what pride is. I don't even have to explain it. It's pretty obvious. I like the reading. It says, it looks like we're standing on some mountain peak looking down on everybody else saying, oh, look how low they are, And, nobody does it on purpose. Nobody has pride on purpose. It's not like we want to be looking at a mountain peak, looking down on all of our friends saying, oh, they're so much worse than I am. But sometimes it just kind of creeps in. These are the kleshas that are so prevalent that we all have them all the time. Whether they are dormant, they're lying dormant within us, or whether they have actually risen to the surface at the moment of the trigger, right? we have these all the time. So we have this pride. Pride actually comes from what we were talking about yesterday, the destruction view, jigta. We talked about having some kind of grasping on to a self-existent me, right? I am this way. This is me. This is the line of me. I'm separate from everybody else. I'm separate from Geshe Michael, right? Grasping onto a sense of me in a wrong way leads to things like pride. Why? Because then you start grasping onto things like, I'm really good at yoga, or something like that. And then you start identifying yourself with certain things and certain qualities, So, who's really good at yoga? Who actually gave you that body? We talked about it yesterday, Like, where did your body come from? It came from totally different sources. It came from your mother and your father, and then it came from the nutrients that you're eating. It's like you have absolutely no say in what kind of body that you got in this lifetime, right? You never, ever built the body. You never did anything about the body. So why are you so proud that you can put your foot behind your head? Like, you didn't do it. Somebody else did it, It was like Joe Karma, your past life, did it. They built your body. So why are you so proud of it? And, you were born into a good family. Some people are proud about that. You didn't have a say in that either. Or, you got a good education, so you're a relatively intelligent person. I mean, you look down at every single thing that you're proud about, and it's, you can point to another person who's responsible for it. It has nothing to do with you. Even your own intelligence, even your own clarity of mind, it has to do with another person. It has to do with another person's goodness, actually. Somebody else planted that seed to give you a clear mind. So, this pride, it's a false identification. It's identifying onto a false sense of a self. Then, the nature of pride is that if someone attacks that quality of yours that you think that you have, you get defensive about it, right? So it's sort of like a false pride. It's a false identity. Because if you really knew you were this quality, like if you really knew you were intelligent, then if somebody called you stupid, would you care? Right? Would you care? No. But if you have this false sense of pride and somebody calls you stupid, then you're like, I'm not stupid, And then this defensiveness rises up. So this is like what we're talking about. The hand in hand with this false sense of pride goes this defensiveness, because it's a false sense of identification. I knew someone in New York recently who identified very, very strongly with their income. They were getting a lot of money for many, many years, and they had identified themselves with this. I am this. I am the person who rakes in $100,000 a year or $150,000 a year. I don't even know how much this person made. $200,000 a year. Okay. Well, I'm obviously not in that income bracket. So, I don't make anything, but, that's another story. So he had all this pride. I mean, like, he had identified himself with this income, and then suddenly he lost his job. Like, overnight, it shifted. And then, strangest thing, he lost all this confidence in himself. He became this person that had no confidence, and he used to be such a confident person, but it was a false sense of confidence. And we don't want that kind of confidence. We don't want the kind of confidence that is shattered by some sort of, momentary glitch in the matrix where you lose your job, right? You don't want your confidence to be that easily undermined. You want a kind of confidence that will hold up and withstand throughout any kind of adversity, right? You want a kind of... So there's a difference. There's a false sense of pride, and that's a klesha. Then there's a real sense of pride. Then there's a real sense of who you are. that is not a klesha. And we'll talk about both. Because you need the second kind and you have to get rid of the first kind. The first kind, it hurts you. Like we said yesterday, every single one of these kleshas, the reason they're called kleshas is because they bring us pain, because they bring us suffering. This kind of pride, it will hurt you. This kind of pride makes you defensive. This kind of pride makes you get into fights with your partner. The other kind of pride is the opposite, right? So, what's the other kind of pride look like? The other kind of pride is what they call a divine sense of pride. It's a sense of who you are and who you will be that can never be shaken by any kind of outside source. Give you an example. I am going to rid myself of every single klesha so that I can see my world totally pure. All right? I take responsibility to do that. I am the person who will do that. And you get this kind of responsibility in your mind. It's a good word. It's the responsibility in your heart that this is who I am. I am on this path. I am going to rid myself of every single pain and suffering in my heart, and I'm going to become a person who can help everybody else. Right? And that's a kind of pride. It's a kind of identification with something pure. And it's an identification that nobody else can take away from you. And it's an identification that doesn't get shattered in moments of adversity. In fact, it actually gets stronger. Because you start to have these kleshas, and then you're like, that's what I'm fighting against. I'm that person that's going to kick your butt. You know, and so you have to find that sense of self that's unshakable. That's totally unshakable. Don't let yourself fall into false sense of pride from outer things. Like, I have a nice car, I have a nice house, I have nice children, I have a nice face, I have a nice, all these things can change. All these things can be taken away from you. You have to find something inside of you that is unshakable. So, I don't know, I had this pride from when I was very small. I was thinking about it. When I was, my parents, my father, especially my father, he has this big thing. He thinks McNallys are probably the smartest people in the world. I don't know. Maybe he's right. I don't know. See, I told you. So no, I was learning how to drive. I was 15 years old. I was learning how to drive, and he goes, "This is how my dad teaches me how to drive." He's like, 99% of the people out there on the road, Christy, are totally stupid. They're totally dumb, and you have to be the smart one. You have to be a defensive driver, because you're the smart one, and they're totally stupid. And that's like how I grew up, It's like, okay, everybody else is stupid, and McNally's are really smart. Now, my mom didn't think that way, so I was safe, It's like I had two perspectives. I didn't totally grow up insane, but I still had that seed planted in my mind, like my dad, everybody's dumb but you, Christy. Okay, Dad. It's like, it's a really bad way to grow up. So when I first got into this Lama, disciple thing, of course the Lamas realized that I had this problem. this pride thing, because of my upbringing and habit and all that stuff, So, so they worked on it really hard. Geshe Michael worked on my pride really hard. I was like, for the first couple years, he would introduce, he would be traveling with a circle of close disciples, right? And I was one of them. And he would introduce everybody. He'd be like, Geshe, and she's in charge of this project, and Venerable Ningpo, and he's in charge of this project, and, Rebecca's in charge of this project, and Christy, I don't know what she does. I swear you can listen to the tapes. We go to, California, we go to India, I get to India, I'm supposed to be one of the assistants there. They don't know who I am. I was just stripped of my whole identity. And it was so good for me because I just everybody, like nobody knew what I was or what I did or who it was so great because I was just in the shadows, and I was just like following Geshe Michael around in this like little shadow here. And I didn't, for a few years there, I didn't have any pride. It was so nice. But then, it starts creeping up again. Geshe Michael starts to drag me up on stage with him. And then, like, I'm suddenly a teacher again. And then suddenly, Geshe Michael and I are arguing about what to talk about on, the next teaching. It's like, who am I to argue with the Lama? But I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking, I'm right. Or why aren't you listening to me? It's like that pride starts to come up again. It's amazing. I could go through so much of like being like totally humbled and I could feel the sort of bliss of not having it, not having the pride for the very first time in my life, of just being free of that mental affliction, that klesha. And then, I don't know, even if you know that you don't want it in your heart, you don't want this ugly klesha in your heart, it still kind of creeps up again when you're least expecting it. So, this is what it means to be a latent seed in our mind. I said every single one of us has all of these kleshas in our mind, and they're all latent. If you don't have a ravenous amount of anger at this very moment, it doesn't mean that you're not an angry person. It means you just haven't found the right object yet. Or if you think that you're not a prideful person, it's just because you haven't found the right object yet. And given a particular circumstance, every single one of these emotions, of these negative emotions, will arise in your heart, given the right circumstance, because this is what the desire realm is. We were all born here because we have these negative emotions. That's the definition of the desire realm, is that we own these emotions in our heart. Geshe Michael said, it's like we are on a certain floor of an insane asylum. It's like the 10 klesha floor, It's like we were born in the desire realm, and we were born in this certain floor of the insane asylum, and that's why we're here, because we have these certain problems. And, so when you're talking about this, don't ever think, oh yeah, I know a person who has a real problem with that. Don't ever think that, because the first time you think that, like the next day, the object will come. It's like praying for the object to come in your life. To say that you don't have it. Don't ever say that you don't have it. I've had this experience before. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not a jealous person. Oh. So painful. so painful. I'll never say that again. Okay. So, what to do if you find yourself having pride? If you find yourself having pride in your relationship, for instance, because that's sort of a really good, brewing area for pride to arise, because you have a lot of things that you have to negotiate. If you're doing something together, you always have to decide how you're going to do these things. And then certainly this feeling, I'm right, or I know the best way to do it, will start to crop up. And how do you target that? What's the antidote? The antidote is the opposite, is the complete opposite mentality. When you have pride, now you're not thinking this consciously, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I'm smarter than you are. Or I'm better than you are in some way or another. Whether, it's looks or yoga or intelligence or money or whatever. Like, I'm better than you are. And then to consciously turn that around. Do you know who this person really is that you're having pride about? Do you know who this person really is? Can you read their mind? Do you know that they're not a totally enlightened being just trying to help you, just trying to guide you on your path? No, you don't know. So just for a moment, switch your view. See what it would look like to look at them as if they were a fully enlightened being. They're put there to help you. How would your mind change? I have an example. We were in retreat, and this is how I knew I still had a lot of pride, You see, I have this pet peeve about sponges in the sink. See, we go on retreat and we have to cook our own food. And, we never use the kitchen at Diamond Mountain, and we never use the kitchen when we're out, because either we order food or some nice, beautiful, holy disciple decides they want to cook for us. And so only in retreat do we ever have these issues. So we're in the kitchen by ourselves, and we're cooking and we're cleaning, we're washing the dishes. And, I say to Geshe and Michael, look, we're in retreat, so we can't go to the store. Now, when you leave the sponge in the sink and it gets all this water on it, it starts to mold. So then the next time you pick it up and you actually wash the dishes, you're not really washing them because you're getting mold all over the dishes. You see, I have this pet peeve. So I tell Geshe and Michael, would you please not leave the sponge in the sink? Please don't leave the sponge in the sink. And then, you know what happens next, right? Yeah, I know. Okay, so the sponge, I see the sponge in the sink, and I'm kind of like, Geshe Michael, you remember? Please don't leave the sponge in the sink, right? So this happens several times. And then finally, there's this one moment in my mind where I'm like, God, I see the sponge in the sink. I'm like, can't he just lift the sponge up, put it on the counter, what's so hard about that? But see, in that moment, I'm having a perception of my partner, like, God, he's so, I don't even want to say it, but I'm having this terrible perception of my partner in that moment of thought, in that moment of, God, can't he just lift the darn sponge out of the sink, And I catch myself, and that's a kind of pride, right? Thinking that, I'm so much better because I know how to lift sponges off of sinks and he doesn't, And it's so stupid. And it says in the reading, it could be any stupid little thing that you can get pride about. See, the pride, it doesn't matter because it's some internal thing inside your heart. You could be proud about sponges. The stupidest thing. And why would you ever get in a fight with your partner about a sponge? But you do. Because you have pride. Because you think you know how to wash dishes better than Geshe Michael. And who's going to fight about that? Like, oh, I'm so much better at washing dishes. I mean, it sounds so silly to get up there and say that, but see, you have to catch yourself in those tiny moments of pridefulness when you're dealing with your partner, like thinking that you're better than they are in any small way. Like, I know I'm not better in Tibetan than him. And I know I'm not better in scriptures than him. But God damn it, I'm better at washing dishes. You know, like, I mean, you know, it's like so dumb. It's so dumb to even want to be better than somebody. You know, but we have that seed in our mind. We have that seed of thinking that we're better. Well, maybe there was some kind of divine message in the sponge in the sink, and I missed it. Because I was too busy thinking what a stupid thing it was that they couldn't, you know, just lift it up and put it on the counter. Now, I missed the message. I missed it over and over again. He kept trying to leave me the same message, and I kept missing it. Because I was so prideful, I didn't have any room for messages. That's the problem with pride. If you're so prideful, you don't have any room for any kind of teaching to get in, for any kind of growth to get in, and you stop yourself. You're just like, I'm finished with growing. I'm finished with learning. I'm good enough as it is. I'm not, you know, I'm fine. I'm this, you know, this person, and you just stop yourself. You thwart yourself, and you know, you start to get into that habit. So, one moment, Lama Christie is prideful about the sponge. The next moment, Lama Christie can't hear when Geshe Michael reads her a beautiful passage of scripture. You see, because it's a habit. It starts off with sponges. Starts out with sponges, but then it grows. And then I'm not able to learn anything anymore. And that's so scary. Because, like, what are we trying to do here? Every single person here has come because we want to grow as a person. Because we want to evolve. Because we want to be better. And then to, you know, somehow we have something inside our hearts that's trying to thwart that. You know, this pride. It's really ugly. It's really awful. You know. You know, consciously applying the antidote. There's a divine reason why the sponge is in the sink for the 25th time. You know, not that I was counting. No, really. Because maybe the next time you see the sponge, it will be something really profound. Right?
I'm going to page 11. Okay. It's okay. The top 10 kleshas of all time are always divided into 5 and 5. Say, just repeat, it's good luck. Tawanga. Tawanga. Taminga. Taminga. So they're always divided when these big lamas like His Holiness, when they teach kleshas, they always say Tawanga and Taminga. Tawanga means, Taminga means 5 of the kleshas are like emotions. And then Tawanga means 5 of the biggest, by the way, there are 84,000 kleshas, right? So top 10 means you must be having it like every 15 minutes, okay? Tawanga means 5 ways of viewing the world, right? So that's why it's hard to call them negative emotions. That's why we ended up using a foreign word, kleshas, because klesha covers negative emotions, taminga, but it also covers 5 ways of looking at things. And what that means is that half of your problems are not caused by your emotions. They are caused by how you look at things. You see? So it's important for us to examine how we look at things. And those are the most important ones. Because if you stop the 5 ways you look at things wrong, that will automatically stop the 5 big emotions. You see? So we work on our views. Supremacy view is like this. Let's say that you're being jealous, okay? Like you have a problem with jealousy in your partnership, right? Like your partner gets within 50 feet of somebody of the opposite sex, and you're like, "What were you doing? You know, what were you saying to them?" I didn't say anything. They were 50 feet away. But yeah, but how are you looking at them? You know, like that. You know, and you have a problem with jealousy, right? And your partner says, "I think you have a problem with jealousy." You know, and you're like, no, I don't have a problem with jealousy. You have a problem. You know, like that. And then they reason with you. You see, they reason with you. They say, "Do you know what jealousy is?" You say, yeah, jealousy, you don't like it when your partner is like hanging out with somebody else, you know. And say, no, jealousy is different. Jealousy is not being happy when someone else is happy. You see? Jealousy is worse than being worried about your partner hanging out with somebody. Jealousy is deeper than that. Jealousy has a more powerful core than that. To be jealous is to want someone else to be unhappy. You see? To be jealous is to not want someone else to be happy. You see? That's what jealousy is. You know, you're in high school, you're jealous about somebody's bicycle, right? Why? Because they're enjoying it. And you don't want them to. That's the bottom line. You can make it nicer, you can make it prettier, you can say, "Oh, they were like kissing in the closet," but it's not that. The core of jealousy is you don't really want another person to be happy. And if they're more happy than you are, you're unhappy. You see? That's the real meaning of jealousy, right? So your partner comes up to you and says, "I think you have a problem with jealousy." You say, yeah, I know you think that. You know, and then 5 minutes later they're like, "You know what it is? You know what your jealousy is?" And you say, "What? You know, tell me." You know, and you're like, "You don't like it when the other person is happy with me." You see, you are unhappy when someone else is happy by my presence or I'm there. You're unhappy. That makes you unhappy. You say, yeah, maybe so. And you're a Buddhist, right? You're a Buddhist monk. You're a Buddhist teacher, right? I'm a Buddhist teacher. Yeah. You know, and then they're like, "Well, you're a bodhisattva, right? You want to be a bodhisattva?" Yeah, of course. You know, we know that. What do bodhisattvas do? What do bodhisattvas want? They want people to be happy. Yeah, and you don't want that person to be happy, though. You know, like they catch you. This is a Buddhist debate, right? They're like, "Are you a Buddhist?" "Yes." "Are you a bodhisattva?" "Trying to be." "Are you unhappy that they're happy?" "Yes." Like that. No, they catch you. They catch you. This is the meaning. This is hard to explain. When you get to the monastery, a lot of the Tibetans are 7 years old. At the age of 7, you are allowed to come into the monastery and wear robes. You don't have monk's vows. You're called a rabchung. You're like some kind of baby monk, right? If you can make a noise that will scare a crow at 20 feet, you're allowed to enter the monastery. That's the definition. If you can make a noise that would startle a crow at 20 feet, you're old enough to enter the monastery, right? So at 7 years old, they enter the monastery. What do they teach them at 7 years old? Is it compassion? You know, is it kindness? Is it wisdom? They teach them logic. At 7 years old, they start them on logic, you know, for 8 years. 8 years of formal logic, right? So you're like, you go to the monastery. I started, I was 29. I was 22 years behind my classmates, right? No, really. I mean, all my classmates were up to here on me, And I said, okay, what are we going to study first? Emptiness, compassion, wisdom? I said, no, formal logic. Why? What's a 15-year-old going to know about formal logic? What good does it do a kid to learn formal logic? Well, teach them kindness. Teach them. They don't learn their vows till they're 35. Their monk's vows. I'm like, start with their monk's vows. What are you doing with logic? It's because logic saves you. I was in a yoga class recently, this really cool yoga class, and a really cool teacher. So what do? They pull out this quotation by Mahatma Gandhi, right? They start quoting Mahatma Gandhi. And I have this thing about Mahatma Gandhi. When they start quoting Mahatma Gandhi, I want to cry. I always want to cry. He just makes me cry. There's something about him. And I'm sitting in the class, and I'm like, why do I always want to cry when they quote Mahatma Gandhi? What is it about Mahatma Gandhi? And they were quoting him. And it dawned on me, in the moment of the quotation, I thought, I know what it is. He was so honest. He was totally truthful, He just wanted the truth at any cost. He wanted to see the truth. And he wanted, all his actions were motivated only by truth, you see? And he didn't hold an opinion, and he didn't keep an opinion because it was his. He kept it only if it was true. You see? Only if it were proven to be true would he keep an opinion. And the minute someone showed him that his opinion was wrong, he changed. He would let it go. And it's so powerful. And he would hang out with the people who were beating him up, breaking his limbs, hitting him on the head, imprisoning him for years. He would hang out with them and just love them, and talk to them like a brother. He really loved them, and it's extraordinary. We don't have this capacity. But he was a logician. Because if someone proved truth to him, he would follow it, right? So Dawa Chongzin, this view, supremacy view, it's to continue to hold your view when it has been proven false to you. Is the biggest klesha, is one of the biggest kleshas. You see, it ruins your life. I'll say it again. To continue to hold an opinion which has been proven to you clearly wrong. Why? Because it's mine. You see? Because it was mine. What's the example? Jealousy, right? So your partner says to you, you'll have a problem. No, I don't have any problems. Yeah, you have a problem with jealousy. No, I don't have a problem with jealousy. Do you get upset when you see me happy with this other person, that this other person is made happy by my presence? Yeah, I get upset. So you're unhappy that someone else is happy. You can put it that way. And you want to be a bodhisattva? Yeah. What's a bodhisattva? They want to make everybody happy. Duh. Do you get it? What? You have a problem with jealousy. And then they start over again, Then it starts over again, But you don't want to let it go. Why? Not because it's not true, but it's yours. You see? So Gandhi would just drop it. Gandhi would let it go. You see? I'll say it again and that's it. You're holding a view. You claim to want to be a bodhisattva. You claim to want to make people happy. You see someone made happy by your partner's presence and you get unhappy. So then you are being unhappy about someone else's happiness. So you're not trying to be a bodhisattva, are you? And someone takes you through the logic. That's why they do logic for 8 years in the monastery. That's why it's the first thing. They teach you to listen to reasoning and not to your emotions. You see? They teach you to learn to listen to truth and not what you want. You see? And it takes 8 years, and you grab them while they're young. You get them before they reach 15. At 15, they start something else. For 8 years, you drill it into them. What's true is more important than what you want. Right? And it's so beautiful. When it works, it's really beautiful, right? So, how do you get rid of this klesha? Of continuing to hold an opinion just because it's yours and not because it's true or kind? I'm sorry, it's logic. Okay? I mean, nobody likes to hear it. Like, I don't know, logic and like Bush are words that no one wants to talk about. You know, I don't know. No, I mean, there's certain words nobody wants to hear, you know. Logic is like that, you know, but it's that. Someone demonstrates to you using your own beliefs, only saying back to you what you believe. Do you want to be a bodhisattva? Yes. Do bodhisattvas want to see people happy? Yes. Are you trying to see this person unhappy? Yes. Are you trying to be a bodhisattva? Yes. You know, someone reads back to you your own illogic. Someone reads back to you your own lack of truth, and they confront you with it. If you continue to hold that jealousy, then you're a failure as a person, and you have a klesha, right? That's this klesha. That's this klesha. If you let it go, if you say, you know, I never thought of it like that. I was just pissed off, you know? But once you say it that way, yeah, I have a problem with jealousy. Then you can drop your other kleshas. You see, so this klesha, dropping this klesha, demanding truth in the way that Gandhi demanded truth, right? Demands that you drop the other kleshas. You see, when you reach a point of honesty with yourself, you must drop the other kleshas, right? So then this klesha becomes like an enemy number one. I want to work on this klesha. I want to work on my idea that my opinions must be correct. Why? Because they're mine. And no better reason, right? The willingness, like Gandhi, to examine your opinions and to let them go when they are not true. It's so hard. It's like one of the hardest kleshas, okay? But if you let go of that klesha, the others just fall away. You see? If you are really honest and true, and you demand truth, the other kleshas can't stay. I think it's a beautiful klesha to kill. So I'll work on my jealousy. Okay.
Geshe Michael and I were talking before the class, and we said, why isn't jealousy included in one of the 10 top mental afflictions? The 10 top kleshas. And he told me this cute story of when he was in the Howell Monastery, with him and Art being the only students with Rinpoche. And at one point, he went to Rinpoche and confessed, you know, I have a problem with jealousy. I'm jealous of Art. And, you know, the funny thing about confessing is, like, once you get to the point where you're confessing, you no longer really have that problem so much anymore. You know, it's like, it's when you're denying it to yourself that you really have the problem. So, you know, it's like, it's almost gone by the time you get to the Lama. So, he tells me the story about going to Rinpoche, and Rinpoche is like, yeah, that jealousy, it should be one of the 10. So we have it from, you know, from the lamas on high, that you can also squeeze in jealousy. You know, that could be the number 11. Or like, what they say in the scriptures is that jealousy is actually just another form of anger. So you can kind of put that in with the anger, because it makes you, you know, it's a certain kind of anger where certain kind of not wanting someone to be happy, certain kind of hatred, you know, that stems from another source, though. So we kind of think it should get its own compartment. Anyway, we're on to page 8, called Lazy Doubts. Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, there's always a certain point in our lives where, we really don't know what to do we have certain decisions to make, and we're not sure which decisions are going to be correct. I think I hit my pinnacle of this right after I graduated college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, so I just went to India. But that's always an option, No, come to Diamond Mountain. It's much better. We made a much better one. Anyway, so, what am I doing with my life? What, am I doing the right thing in my job? Am I on the right career? Am I following my dream? Or should I be doing something else? Should I be, following my desire to write the world's greatest American novel? Or should I be continuing to work in this business where it's easy and I get the money that I need to support my family? And then you're torn between these decisions. What kind of career? Am I following my dreams? Or, is this the right partner for me? Am I in the right relationship? I mean, yeah, there are certain really great things about them, but then there are other things that it seems like they don't really mesh with me. And I mean, am I really in the right partnerships? Because, what I dreamed of with the partnership was this, and it's not quite this. And is this the right person for me? Or should I be looking at somebody else and, oh, there was that really nice person over there that seemed to be more compatible to me than my present one, And so, you're thrown into this state of doubt. And it starts to get sort of habitual to get into this state of doubt. The problem when you have this klesha of doubt is that you never fully commit to what you're doing in the present moment. So you're in a career, but you're doing a half-assed job at your career because you're not really sure you want to be there. Or you're in a partnership, but you're doing a half-assed job at your partnership because you're not really sure you want to be there. And is that fair to your partner? And is that fair to yourself? You're just wasting your life. So, and it creates failure, right? What happens if we do a half-assed job at our careers or a half-assed job at our partnerships? Well, it doesn't work out very well, does it? Because you're not committed to it. So you get half-assed results back, and people can feel it. You're in a partnership, but you're unsure that you really want to be with them, and then the partner's out hanging there waiting for you to finally say in your heart, yeah, let's do this thing. But you're yeah, let's half do this thing. And where does that put them? And where does that put you? So it's a really debilitating negative emotion, this emotion of doubt. And it's, nobody likes it. Nobody likes to be in a state of doubt. But suddenly you find yourself in it, and what do? Because it's not something like anger, which it's focused on an outer object, an external object. Doubt is something that happens within you. It's like anger, you can just avoid the object for a while until you calm down. And then, maybe go back to them when you've gotten a good night's sleep, and then it'll be okay. But doubt, it goes with you when you go to bed. It goes with you when you get up. It's plaguing you. It's terrible. It's this terrible, terrible state of doubt. Then you start fixating on these problems. You talk to 20 different people in 20 different coffee shops about what you should do. And they all give you different advice. And then you're more confused than you were before. I mean, and it makes you so self-centered. You just continue to focus on yourself over and over and over again. It's so unhealthy. And it's just this kind of doubt, there's a good kind of doubt and a bad kind of doubt. As you've realized, with a lot of these kleshas, there's a good version and there's a bad version. In Buddhism, Lord Buddha himself, the very first person, the very first Buddhist, he said, get a sense of healthy skepticism about every single thing you hear, including everything I say. Cut it, burn it, file it, right? Treat everything I say like a piece of gold. And, in the ancient days, when you would exchange something of value for a piece of gold, you better make damn well sure that it's a piece of gold through and through. So you would have to cut it in half to make sure it's not nickel covered with gold on the outside. You would have to burn it to make sure it has the qualities that gold has. You would have to file it away. So these are the 3 different tests that you would give to a piece of gold in order to make sure that it was an actual gold before you exchanged your piece of valuable property. So before you give your valuable spiritual real estate away to a certain idea that anybody says, including us, you have to challenge it with 3 different things. Your own direct experience, your own personal direct experience, what you know to be true in your heart from what you've lived so far. Then logic, it's not direct experience, but it's a logical experience. What you deduce to be true, right? And then what they call a reliable source. You have a reliable source that speaks no falsehood, speaks everything true. If they say, and you can rely on that person, you've come to a logical conclusion that that person is telling the truth, then that's a 3rd way. So there are healthy doubts. Until you, by one of those 3 methods, confirm that what we say is true, you shouldn't believe it, right? You shouldn't believe it. You should make sure that it's true, and that's a healthy kind of skepticism. What we're talking about here is not that kind of doubt. It's what they call a lazy doubt. It's what either you've already proved to yourself that it's true and you just don't want to accept it, or you don't even want to go there. You don't even want to bother proving to yourself it's true because you don't want to accept the necessary consequences of that action, right? So when you're having lazy doubts, it's because you don't want to think something through logically. And you don't want to prove to yourself, is this true or is this not true? And it's a kind of avoidance of the issue. It's an avoidance of the issue. So, in our partnerships, how does this manifest, right? Is my partner an enlightened being or not? I don't know, he's sort of radiant. He's got kind of a halo. I don't know. No, seriously. How many of you take the time every day to think about whether or not your partner is an actual enlightened being? No, you're lazy. You don't go through the logical sequence of arguments in your mind necessary to prove to yourself daily that your partner's an enlightened being. Why? Because then you'd have to act on it. like then you'd have to, treat them like an enlightened being, and who wants to go through all that trouble? No, so you sort of half-ass it, You're like, yeah, maybe they're an enlightened being. I don't really feel like thinking about it right now. Right? I don't really feel like thinking about it right now. But then that debilitates you in the same way that not committing to anything debilitates you. In the same way that not committing to a job or not committing to a partnership or not committing to anything that you do debilitates you. if you don't fully commit, like we are in the job, everyone in this room supposedly is in the job of spiritual partnership. I mean, we want to practice this. And one of the foundations of our spiritual partnership is trying to think that our partner is in fact a holy angel, enlightened being sent to guide us so that we can get to their state of ultimate evolution and reach a place beyond pain. Right? That's why we're here. That's why we're here. So if you don't consciously, daily, go through the logical arguments in your mind necessary to get yourself to that state where you're like, yeah, they must be an enlightened being. Then you're having this kind of klesha. You're doing this lazy doubt thing. You're doing this lazy doubt thing, and your spiritual partnership is not going to take you where you want to go. Not very quickly, anyway. So, I will give you 2 different logical arguments that you can go through every single day in your mind. You can take your pick which one you like. Okay, I like both of them. Here it goes. First logical argument. Are there enlightened beings? Some people say yes. Some people say, I don't know. I didn't get any no's. That was a good If you're not sure whether there are enlightened beings, you have to go an extra step. You have to do an extra set of arguments to prove to yourself the existence of enlightened beings. You have to look at how the scriptures describe what you know to be true, which is your own pain. And then you have to look at how the scriptures describe how to get out of it. And you have to test that. You know, you have to test the laws of karma, see if it works in your own life. And then once you decide, oh, that's right too. You know, the laws of karma is right because I did this test in my own life and I proved to myself that by giving a lot of, being generous and giving a lot, I got a lot back. You know, and I got this visceral sense, oh, karma's right. So then you get this sense, oh, maybe the person who wrote this scripture knew more than I did. Right? Maybe the person who wrote this scripture had evolved to a higher mental level than I am right now personally, because I never would have figured out karma if someone hadn't told it to me. Right? So then you start looking further into the scriptures and think, oh, they also say in the scriptures that you can reach a place beyond all mental afflictions, a place beyond all kleshas. You can reach a state of ultimate enlightenment. And there are people who have done it. So if you believe the scriptures when it describes suffering, and then if you believe that the scriptures when it describes karma, because you've proved it to yourself, then logically you have to deduce, and this is the best you can do now without a direct perception of an enlightened being. Yeah, there are enlightened beings because this person that I can trust, who speaks so eloquently about my own pain and how to get out of it, has told me there is such a thing as an enlightened being. They do exist. They've gotten to this place beyond pain. They've gotten to this place of ultimate happiness. And I can get there too, right? So that's how you logically deduce. If you already believe that enlightened beings exist, you can skip that part. It's like, you don't have to worry about that part. So, do enlightened beings exist? We'll go back. This is still the first argument, by the way. Okay, now we've decided they do. Okay, I've proved it to you. Ben Kramer, you can argue with me later. All right, the qualities of an enlightened being. They can read our minds. They have all knowledge. They can read everybody's minds in all three times, past, present, and future. So they're reading my mind right now. They know my pain. And second quality, they have ultimate love for me. They have ultimate love in their hearts. Like a mother's only child. That's how much they love me, right? And they would do anything anything they could at all to stop my pain, because they love me so much. So that's the two qualities of enlightened being. There's a third quality. They have the ability to emanate anything they need, any body that they want. It could even be inanimate object. It could be the trees. It could be the wind. It could be anything that would get me closer to my enlightenment quicker. So if enlightened beings exist, and if they have these three qualities, they know my suffering, they love me immensely, and they can help me. They can emanate to help me. They have to be emanating for you right now as someone very close to you, someone who could influence you constantly on a day-to-day basis, someone like your partner, right? Have to. That's a logical argument. You can take yourself through it every day, right? Thus, my partner is the Buddha. You knew that already, though. Your partner is the Buddha. You might not know that already. Second argument, right? Second logical argument. You can pick whichever one you want. I don't know. I was trying to torn between the two, so I thought I'd give you both. Your partner is empty. Your partner is self-existently neither an enlightened being, nor are they a normal person, nor are they a demon. In and of themselves, they have no qualities of their own. They only have what you are projecting onto them, right? But if you see them as an enlightened being every single day in your day-to-day life, it will get you enlightened. That's it. That's the other one. It's a lot shorter than the last one. Okay.
We're going to take a break, but I'm going to pitch you something, as I always do. We were just in Los Angeles. We were visiting Christy's parents.
My prideful father.
And I know they were looking for a high school for her sister. And so we happened to get familiar with all the different options in high school in LA. So there was the expensive Catholic school, there was the cheaper Catholic school, and then there was the good public high school, and then there was the medium public high school, and then there was the trouble for delinquent public high school. And we actually went to them, you know, and we kind of, it's good for us to see the family, because otherwise we're normally just surrounded by Buddhists and we don't see normal people, you know, just abnormal. And so we went to all these schools, and the one thing that they all had in common, there was one thing that struck me, is that no one really cares, you know? Like, when I was a kid, in my high school, the community spent a lot of money on the high school, and they were proud of it, you know? Like, people who didn't even have children, They paid property taxes, and if you talk to them, they'd say, we want the school to be strong. You know, we want high quality teachers. We're happy to spend money on the kids in our community because it will help everybody if they grow up to be good people. But now, I don't know, people are very short-sighted. It's like cutting all the wood in your forest down and leaving none for the next generation. It's this kind of selfishness of a generation. It's 80 billion barrels of oil a year by one country. You know, 90% of the world's oil is used by one country. You know, it's this kind of extraordinary lack of feeling for the rest of humanity and the people to come next. You know, it's extraordinary. It's unbelievable, you know. So anyway, we're trying to do something different. We choose like 10 young people a year at our university, and we send them to study at a Tibetan monastery, like a real hardcore Tibetan monastery. Nobody speaks English there. We just plop them down in this monastery for a month, you know, and something extraordinary will come from that. I know, because I did it, you know, so something beautiful will happen. You take a young American and you plop them down in a hardcore 3,000 monks monastery from the 15th century, right? Really. And then you put them back in America and see what happens. You know, it's this grand, noble experiment we're doing. And it's very, it will have extraordinary effects.
Already.
It has already. But we don't have any money. We don't charge anything at the university. We have no endowment. We have no money at all. So what we do is every time we give a talk somewhere, we have a bake sale, and we ask you to load up on calories and like eat as many brownies as you can, you know. And then one brownie, put like $50 in there, you know. No, really, don't say, oh, it says $2, you know. Don't think like that. Like, think a little bit into the future, you know. Let's make 10 people extraordinary. You know, let's do something, this grand experiment with 10 American young people. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna put $50 and we give it to them for their airfare. Okay, so just do it. It's not the way that America is thinking right now, but we should think that way, right? We should invest something in something higher and something to happen in the next generation. We won't be here to see what happens, but it will be interesting, I think. Okay, like that. If you'd like to come up and ask a personal question of either of us, or you'd just like to say hi, please feel welcome to come up during the break. And that makes the break go on a little longer, and we think it's important. So we're sorry if you have to sit for a while if you're not asking a question. But enjoy it, because you'll have so many brownies, you'll have something to do. And I need to see Mercedes Lisette, and also Rob Russinger, and Ben Galmi, and Jackie. Okay.
I need to see Bets and Ari. Okay.
Have a nice night.
Can I give this to you? That's it.
You place the flowers in the water.
Oh, here. Do you have the Cheerios and the flowers right here?
Yeah, I don't have the Cheerios.
Can you, and the sweethearts?
I have the sweethearts. I put them in with the flowers.
Where are they?
It's right here.
Oh, where's the Cheerios?
They're in the back.
Can you grab one?
One?
Yeah. Thanks.
Can you grab those Cheerios?
That's a yes giggle.
Okay, we'll start. Okay. We're on page 13. We're almost done, okay? So hang in there. I know you have to work tomorrow, but some people. Say lokta. Lokta. Lok means mistake, and ta means a way of looking at things. And again, we're into how do you look at things, how do you view things, which is more powerful than your emotions. Your emotions are built on your viewpoints. So if you can change your worldview, then you can change your kleshas. And we say, in the Buddhist tradition, you cannot change your emotions without changing your worldview. It's impossible. You cannot change your anger significantly without changing the way you view reality. Not possible. Okay? They say if a person continues to hold their old view of how the world works, it's not possible to remove a klesha. Not possible. You can suppress anger. You can redirect anger. You can learn to live with anger. But you can't remove anger unless you change your view of reality, how reality works. So that's a very radical statement, right? That's a really radical statement. You cannot, what that means is, since a klesha is defined as a thought which ruins the peace of mind of a person who owns it, you cannot find peace of mind and you cannot be happy. Not possible unless you change the way you view the world, how the world works. You know? And we don't examine how the world works. You know, we sort of just submit to what the world throws up to us. We call people, what do they call it? People who cope well. Well-adjusted. Well-adjusted? We call a person well-adjusted if they can deal quickly and flexibly with all the trouble that life gives you. You know? Like, we assume there's going to be problems. You know? You're going to get sick. You're going to get fired. You're going to get in fights with people. You're going to have problems in your relationship. And well-adjusted people are people who can adjust to the problems quickly. You know? And that's about all you can hope for. That's what well-adjusted means. You adjust well. We're talking about something different. And I had someone come up to me during the break, and it's one of my pet peeves. They said, I read a Buddhist book. I said, which one? Transforming problems into opportunities or something like that. I said, oh God, I hate this book. I didn't tell him that. No, and it's like, and I'm like, what's wrong with this book? I mean, the title's wrong, right? Why? It assumes there'll always be problems, and you're just learning to cope, right? It should be called like, turn your problems into opportunities, and thereby get rid of all your future problems. You see what I mean? So that what? What's going to happen after that? There's nothing to transform anymore. Okay? Right? I mean, that's what you want. You see? You don't want to become a master coper. You see? It's not about becoming the best coper in Tucson. You know, like, yeah, we all have problems, but I cope better than everybody else. It's not like that. Like, could you reach into reality? Could you learn to actually manipulate reality so that problems that were coming to you next year never happened? They call it, what? Maomba makewe chuchen. Maomba makewe chuchen. A future thing that's not going to happen. It's a beautiful word in Buddhism. Maomba makewe chuchen. Say maomba makewe chuchen. It's like a bitch to translate it, okay? Sorry. It's a future, non-happening thing. Possessed. What it means is a thing that was supposed to happen but doesn't happen anymore. Why? You reached into reality and you flicked a few switches. So you're not coping with a problem after it happens. The problem never happens. Let's take like the case of jealousy. Okay? Kleshas are insidious because when you have a klesha, it bears more kleshas. The having of a klesha gives birth to many more kleshas. And that's the worst news. You see, once you have jealousy for 5 minutes, you have created 30 more jealousies in the next few weeks. You see, jealousy begets jealousy. And jealousy begets what you were trying to avoid. You see, so actually, your partner didn't really have any romantic interest in this other person. But you got angry, and you said bad things to them, and you hurt them, because you thought, you misperceived it, and you thought that was happening. What's the karma from that? What karma comes out of that? Then they really do leave you and go with the other person. Then they do start to have a romantic interest. You see? You created their romantic interest by having a delusion about a romantic interest that wasn't there. You see? What do you call that? Manifest destiny or something. Like, you make it happen by thinking it was going to happen. You see what I mean? So we are in the opposite business. Can you prevent undesirable events in the future with your partner by actively stopping a klesha now? You see, can you prevent disagreement with your partner next week by catching your own jealousy now and never talking to them? You don't say anything to them, right? Why? This is where we get into lokta, okay? Lokta means I don't believe the world is coming from how I treat others. That's lokta. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe that every single event in my life has come back to me from something I did to someone earlier, okay? Like, a lot of people here are Buddhists. And you say, oh, you're a Buddhist. Yeah, I'm a Buddhist. Do you believe in karma? What are they going to say? Yeah, I call them 48% karma. I call them 48% karmists. Why? Because 52% of the time they're not working on karma. Things are random. Some stuff is random. Some stuff is happening, maybe someone's causing it. And then some stuff is karma. Like the really bad stuff is karma. Like the time I got fired, that was karma. You know? But the reason I got a raise, that was my hard work. That wasn't karma. You know? Like that. We tend to credit karma for the bad stuff, and we tend to credit ourselves for the good stuff. You see what I mean? Nobody's 100% karmist. You see, that's lokta. That's 52% lokta. Like that, right? Everything's from karma. Everything. The slightest thing. Look at the pattern on the rug. Pick a line. Pick half that line. Pick the little bump to the left of that line. You created that. Something you said to someone. Something you did to someone. Something you thought has created that bump. Much less your partner and everything they do. You see what I mean? So lokta, the opposite of lokta is to understand karma. Every tiny detail of my life, every tiny detail of every object around me is a result of something I did to someone else, right? So what does that do to a partner? How does that affect your partner? How does that affect kleshas about your partner? You know? How can you get angry when a person says something if you have created every single letter, every single syllable, yourself? How can you get angry at the person, right? How can you sustain the other kleshas once you understand karma? How can you sustain jealousy? How can you sustain desire? How can you have a doubt anymore? Once you grasp that everything they're saying to you is because of what you're saying to other people, right? So how does a karmaist act? How does a person who doesn't have this klesha act? They're just shutting off future problems. They're not transforming problems. They're not taking the poop and trying to make it into gold like that. The problem never comes. The problem never happens. They don't have to deal with jealousy. They don't have to deal with their partner talking to somebody. Why? The partner doesn't talk to anybody. Why? Because they weren't jealous. They didn't create the seed. They were pure people. They were kind people. They were good people. They never even allowed themselves a disloyal thought about their partner. Not once, right? So they're never going to have a situation. There will never come a situation. Mahumba makewe chuchen. They have created a thing in the future that will never happen. You see, they have caused things in the future not to happen. They have reached into reality and turned a switch. And the thing will just never happen. And in the end, a klesha stopper, which is called an enemy destroyer in Buddhism, a klesha stopper, they get so good, there's nothing to have a klesha about anymore. There's nothing, their partner never says anything bad to them that they have to cope with. Right? Why? Because they have been so careful never to say anything negative. They never hear a negative thing. And they live in this world. They're like walking around in this weird world where no one says anything unkind to anyone. They never have to hear it because they didn't create the karma to hear it. So imagine that. If you can stop this klesha, mistaken view, if you can become a master about karma, then all the problems you have to transform will just never happen. And you don't have to even transform anything. You see what I mean? And then the world, it's an unreal world. Okay? Are we good, are Christy and me good karmists? No. Okay? Are we good at what we preach? No. I'm honest, we're not. Okay? We have fights frequently. Okay? But 1% we have changed. After 20 years of intense study and meditation, we have changed by 1%. And that makes us twice as happy as anyone I know. You see? It makes us twice as happy as anyone I know. At least 3 times a day, someone comes up to a stranger and says, "You look so happy." No, it happens constantly. They're just people we don't know. They come and "You look so happy," No, it happens like 3 times. I swear it happens 3 times a day. Like that. It's just weird. It's like supernatural, Why? Why? Because of 1% we have changed. By 1% we've been able to change. So imagine what's going to happen if you change by 2%. Then you'll be twice as more than happy than we are. You see what I mean? So it's like that. We are so miserable. And we are so, how do you say? We are such slaves of our kleshas, right? We are such wimps. And they just push us around all day. Anger, desire, pride, jealousy. They just run your life, right? If you could change by 1%, if you could just change 1%, you'd be twice as happy. Really, honest. That's our experience, okay? So try. Get to know your kleshas and then smash them. Like that. No, that's what a person who has achieved nirvana in Buddhism is called the smasher of the enemy, the killer of death. You see, Kaladanda. It's very beautiful, right? So that's your job now. Get to know the kleshas. Get to know your mind and then fight them. And it's a losing battle, okay? No, you've had them for millions of lifetimes. They're not going to go away in a day. Forget it. I mean, you'll say, oh yeah, he talked about jealousy, and like for 2 seconds you're not going to be jealous, and then it's just going to knock you down. Then you're going to get more jealous than you ever got. You know, and you're just going to, man, I don't know, I was trying not to be jealous, and now I'm worse than I ever was. Like, after all this Geshe stuff, I'm worse than I ever was, you know? You know? And then you just get, I had a yoga teacher recently. I took this yoga class, and they said, don't count the times you fall down. Count the times you get back up. You know? Count the times you get back up, you know? So like, yeah, get back up. You know, and like, suck it to him. Okay? All right.
So we're going to go to page 14, which is the last thing we'll do. It's a little bit of a practical ways to avoid our kleshas. These are called the 6 triggers, and it's like what sets the kleshas off. We talked about how if we are in the desire realm, if we are human beings, that means that we've got all of these kleshas latent within us, every single one of them. And all we need is a tiny little trigger to set it off. And we're going to be as bad or worse as anyone you've ever seen with the same problem, right? So this is about avoiding those triggers. Avoiding those triggers, right? So the first one, we're going to go backwards. It's the tantric. We're going to go from 6 to 1. The first one is called dwelling on it, all right? And I think this applies mostly to something like desire or anger. This particular problem ruins almost every single meditation that you ever have, right? Most of the time it's a desire object. Every single time you leave the tip of your nose to think about something else, usually it's something that you want. It's like some kind of desire. You're going towards an object of desire. Occasionally, very occasionally, it will be the object of anger. It'll be like, God, I just really couldn't stand what that person did to me today. So, but that one's even more powerful. So these are the ruiners of our meditation, and it's what we normally do if we have some kind of craving that we know is bad for us, like some kind of, a diabetic longing for Rebecca's bake sale table. Over and over, they will think about, oh, I saw chocolate cake, and then I saw pumpkin pie, and I saw those cookies, those little heart-shaped cookies. I love those cookies. And you think about it over and over and over. So or you play back in your mind over and over and over what the person did to hurt you. Like what your partner did to upset you so much. You have this little tape recorder and you hear it again and again and again. They said this to me. And you just play it and again, over and over and over. And that's what they mean by dwelling on it. And that's a trigger to increase your desire and anger. So if you can avoid that, if you can put your mind, you can get yourself disciplined enough where you could take your mind off the object and put your mind onto something virtuous, something pure. Then you're going to avoid this trigger of creating more anger and more desire, right? Number 5, habit. A lot of times we just get into a rut. A lot of times we just get used to thinking in a certain way. And so like we talked about with pride or with lazy doubts, you have to consciously force yourself to the opposite, to do the exact opposite thing. You have to consciously force yourself to go on a logical, step-by-step, what they call analysis, meditative analysis, or qigong. Why is my partner a holy enlightened being? And you go through it so that you consciously break yourself of the habit of constantly doubting them, right? Or you consciously break yourself of this habit of constantly thinking you're better than somebody else by reversing it, complete 180-degree reversal of your mind, right? Do the opposite. Number 4, exposing the mind to stupidity. This is, you surround yourself with people who influence you badly, right? And obviously the antidote for this one, to avoid that kind of trigger of, you just avoid those kind of people. You surround yourself with people you want to be like. You surround yourself with people who you want to think like, right? You want to act like. That one's easy. Overstimulation, this, Geshe Michael talked about this a lot. Especially any kind of emotion, any kind of negative emotion will come if you're too tired, you didn't get enough rest, or, you didn't eat properly that day, or you were too busy, you spent too much time on the internet, or you spent too much time on your cell phone, and your mind was so frenetic, and then you can't stop yourself when the emotion comes up, because you let your mind run wild. And then you're so susceptible to these emotions, these negative thoughts, so don't let yourself get to that point in the first place. Don't let yourself become so vulnerable to negative states of mind. Make sure you get a good enough sleep. Make sure you eat properly. Make sure you're not on the internet too much and driving your mind crazy, frenetic. Spend some time in silence. Make sure you have control of your mind during the day. Number 2, proximity of the object. This is like the one that I find most funny to me. Just like if you find yourself, getting angry as soon as you see a certain person, just avoid them. No, this is a certain kind of antidote. If your mind is not disciplined enough to not be angry in this person's presence, then maybe you want to back off a little bit. Maybe you want to not see them for a while until you get your emotions in check. And then, work up to it. And this is the whole reason why monks go into the monastery. It's the whole reason. This is the point. This is the main point. It's proximity of the object. I won't have any desire if there's no women around. I won't have to worry about breaking my vows with women if they're not around. Right? I won't have any anger if I'm not dealing with the hustle and bustle of normal everyday life. If I don't have a family to relate to. If I don't have a spouse to get angry at, I don't have to deal with this anger. I can sit all alone in my cell and read my scriptures, and then I don't have any mental afflictions. I don't have any kleshas. But are they gone? No, they're just sort of buried. They're just sort of latent. It's not that you make them disappear by avoiding them. So, as a temporary antidote, if you're going absolutely bonkers with certain negative emotions, with certain kleshas, then this could be a Band-Aid method to temporarily get yourself some sanity. But it's not an ultimate method, except 2 through 6, they're only Band-Aids. They're only Band-Aids to avoid your object or to get more sleep. This is not going to take away your kleshas forever. So we come to number 1, which is the major one. This is called seeds. The reason we have kleshas is because we have seeds for them in our heart. Because we had kleshas before. Right? The reason we have the propensity for anger, the reason we have the propensity for jealousy, the reason we have the propensity for pride, the reason we have the propensity for ignorant desire is because we had it before. and we planted a seed in our heart. We saw ourselves having it. Our mind, it made an impression in our mind. When we saw ourselves having jealousy before, anger before, it made an impression in our mind. That impression got planted in our heart. It's just waiting to come out again. We've been doing this cycle since beginningless time. We've had all of these things that cause us so much pain. I mean, all your pain can be traced back to these 10 things. All your pain. And how are we supposed to get out of it? If every single time we have another klesha, it plants a seed in our heart for the klesha to continue. It's like almost hopeless to think that we could ever get out of the cycle. What are we going to do? You know, are we going to have to go through Band-Aid methods for the rest of our lives? Just pushing it down so they're latent, you know, so I don't have to see myself get angry, knowing that I still have the anger in my heart, but not, you know, on the surface I'm calm. You know? Is that how you want to be? Is that who you want to be? No. We want to get rid of them. We want to get rid of them completely. So we have to deal with the seeds themselves. We have to deal with the propensity for all of these negative emotions, all these negative views themselves. How do we do that? We look at the root. We look at the root. The root of every single one of these kleshas is ignorance. It's what you see on the first page, you know. Out of the pig's mouth, the bottom picture, right? That's why it's more correct. Because out of the pig's mouth is coming all the rest of the negative emotions. All the rest of the negative views. It's ignorance. It's thinking that everything around us is coming this way. It's thinking that everything around us is coming at us. It's coming towards us. It's existing from its own side. It's thinking that we are not responsible for every single thing in our world. So, how do we really fight these kleshas? How do we fight the root of the kleshas? We get better and better at emptiness. We get better and better at understanding emptiness and karma, right? We start to study how it is that we are creating every single thing around us. You know, that every single word our partner ever says is an image, a mental image coming from our own mind. That we are in a dream, we are in an illusion created by ourselves. And the only way to change that is to change our hearts, right? Then it's impossible. If you cut the root, if you cut ignorance, it's impossible to have any of those kleshas. Like, if you stub your toe on a rock, do you get mad at the rock? No. Like, you get mad at yourself maybe for stubbing, for not looking where you're going. But see, if you know, versus like if somebody else comes up and stamps on your toe. Like, what's the difference between how you feel about those two pains? Okay, it's the same pain. You feel the same pain, okay? One's the left, one's the right, right? So you stub your toe on the left, and then someone stamps on your right toe. Both of them are throbbing, right? Both of them are like, ow, this hurts. For one, you're just like, I should have avoided that rock. And you feel kind of like stupid. Like, that was really dumb. I should have looked down and avoided that rock. For the second one, you're like, hey, that's my toe, and you're going to get mad at the person because they stepped on your toe. Well, it's the same thing if you know that they are coming from you. If you know that the person who stepped on your toe was created by you. You put the person there. You didn't look where you were going in the past, and you made a mistake and you put somebody violent, you planted a violent seed in your heart. And then look, there they are, stepping on your toe, causing you pain. If you really understood that they were coming from you, you could never get angry. Never. You'd just feel a little stupidity, like on the left toe. You'd be like, God dang, I thought I got rid of those violent seeds, but I have to go back. I have to go back and purify my heart some more, because obviously you're still here, stepping on my toe. And so, with every single klesha, now you're aware of the enemy. Now you're aware of what you need to fight. You need to fight anger. You need to fight ignorant desire. You need to fight your pride. You need to fight your jealousy. You need to fight lazy doubt. You need to fight all the wrong views. How do you fight them? You fight them by understanding how the world really works. You fight them by understanding it's all coming from you. Right? That's all I have to say. Yeah, we'll do a prayer to send all the... We think it's really powerful karma to sit here for a couple hours and talk about true things, like Mahatma Gandhi ji was so good at, and to talk about how to really perfect ourselves, how to really purify ourselves, and our partners, and use our partners to help us purify ourselves in the world. And that plants really powerful seeds in our minds. Just talking about emptiness, just talking about how the world is not working the way you think it is a really powerful antidote to all those kleshas in our heart. We've just created these really powerful karmas. So think about that, and then think about sending all that powerful goodness out to everybody in the world. All right? Give it away. Give it away to everyone else. Sashi Poki Jukshing Metok Tramri Rablingshi Nyende Gempadi Sangye Shingdu Mikde Uar Gidro Kunamdak Shingla Druparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami Gewadi Gewokun Sanam Yeshe Tsok Tsok Shin Sanam Yeshe Le Jungwe Dampa Kunyi Toparsho.
So thank you everyone for coming. I just have a few thank yous. I counted yesterday how many people, I looked around the room and made a list last night of how many people actually helped to get this event going. I think it was about 34 people. And I just can't mention all of them right now, but there's a couple people I would just want to point out. And actually, I would like them all to just come up here, hold your applause till the end, and just so you get an idea of some of the people who help. First, Beth and Tim for getting the church. If you guys could just come on up here. We had a hard time finding the church this time, and La El Dia, the church here, this is their church. They offered it to us for free. So we just wanted to thank these guys for pulling that off. Yeah, it's okay. So always when this event happens, the first thing is like, I got to get a place to do it, and then I got to get the posters made. So that's Rob Rusinger, who makes all the posters. Just coming up, Rob. And his beautiful wife, Donna, has to come as well. And you guys just come up here and stand. Scott Vachak for just pulling up last second, help me out. Lauren could come up. Venerable Geshe for doing the bookstore, please come up. Just stand here. It'll help me out. Kat and Hannah for doing the flowers. Melissa and Shishadri for helping us get the churches that we almost had. Working very hard to get this off the ground. Venerable Chucky for driving the llamas back and forth on the night of the event. Venerable Jigme for doing the recordings. Andrea Lemon for putting up all the registration stuff on the computer. And Evan Ashro for getting my last minute emails to change the wording and the registration links. Come on up, please. Just look, come. And also, thank you for all your donations. They help tremendously to get these events going. Last year, we got a little extra money, and we were able to donate it to two people who came to Diamond Mountain to teach partner yoga. So we just donated it to their flight. So thank you for that. And last but not least, without Geshe and Chrissy, there's just no way. Oh, Anne, sorry. Geshe was like, you know, when they first came out of retreat, you know, they came to my house to see me, and I thought Geshe would ask me all these questions. You know, I'm like, hi, and all they kept saying is, how's Ann? You know, and I'm like, no, me, but. So, thank you, Anne.